All right, so a lot of you have been asking me to do a tutorial on the bread that Deidre's keto bread that you can find on YouTube. I've had some success with it, and I know that some of you have been struggling with it. So just thought I'd put this little video together so that you can see how I make the bread, and hopefully that will help you with what you're doing. And some of these pictures are just pictures that I took of bread and rolls that I made in the past. And as you can tell, it's really the closest thing to real bread. So you want to start with a cup of lukewarm water. This is just tap water. And then take 2 eggs and just slightly beat them. And then you're going to add that to the water. In a separate bowl, I start mixing my dry ingredients. This is 2/3 cups of golden flaxseed meal. And after that, I'm going to add oat fiber. So this is the brand that I get, and I had to order this from Amazon because it was hard to find this at grocery stores. But everything else I found at Winco. So just adding a half cup of oat fiber, and then adding a cup and a fourth of vital wheat gluten, which I also found at Winco. So erythritol is a sweetener. It's a natural sweetener that I really like compared to some other ones. I haven't had a reaction to it, and you need 4 tablespoons of this, and then just add it to your dry ingredients. The next ingredient is called xantham gum, and Deidre says that this adds more texture to the bread. And so it kind of looks like this, and just add that to your dry ingredients. And then add 1 teaspoon of salt and mix that with your dry ingredients, just like how I'm doing right here. You want to get it really mixed well so that when you add it to your wet ingredients, everything blends together nicely. And also, you want to cut some of that salt so that it can help the yeast rise. And then I just add the dry ingredients to the wet, and I do it in steps like this because if you dump in the whole thing, the vital wheat gluten and all that stuff is very powdery, especially the oat fiber, and it will get everywhere. Okay, so I'm adding 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Okay, so it melted a little, but that's still okay. Butter helps the bread to be really tender, so that's just one thing I know from baking. This is 1 teaspoon of honey, and you need the honey to help the yeast. The yeast needs something to eat in order for it to rise properly. So, and this is the kind of yeast that I use, bread machine instant yeast. So just take a tablespoon and sprinkle it over the honey so that the yeast will have something to feed from in order to get it to rise. So I use the dough cycle on my bread machine so that it can mix the dough, and also I think it goes through 2 rising stages. And so this is just the beginning of it. And that's how it looks like on the inside. I do have to scrape some of that down so that the dry ingredients can mix well with the wet ingredients. And eventually the dough will all come together and start rising. But this is just something that I do. You don't have to, but I just do it just to help with the process and to get a nice even loaf. And the dough setting on the bread machine takes about an hour and 30 minutes. That's kneading and also 2 rising stages. So it is mixed for about 5 minutes, and as you can tell, it's coming together. It's pulling all the dry ingredients from the sides, and it's starting to look like a nice ball. All right, so it's been an hour and a half, and this is what the dough looks like. It's almost doubled in size. And this is what it looks like from taking it out of the pan after it's risen. And I have to shape it, so it might deflate a little bit, but shaping it and putting it into a greased loaf pan and then letting it rise for another 45 minutes. So those of you that bake bread, this trick should be very familiar to you. just boiling some water and then just putting it in some type of a container. Um, and then you want to put this in the oven. And what this does is it helps the bread to rise. So just put it on this rack and then I put it next to the bread. It just creates a warm environment for the yeast to do its thing. So it's been about 45 minutes and this is what the loaf looks like now. So as you can tell, it's doubled its size and we are ready to bake it. And I'm really embarrassed that I have to subject you to the dirty panel on my stove. Um, Set your oven to 350 degrees and you're going to bake for 30 minutes. So here it is, 30 minutes later. Looks really nice. It's got a nice gold crust. Looks like the rise on it is pretty even. It's probably one of the best ones that I've baked. And this is, I think, my 8th or ninth loaf. And so I'm very happy with the results. And this is what it looks like after it's cooled down for about 20 minutes. So as you can tell, it's shrunk a little, but it's still holding its shape. It's very difficult to cut when it's this fresh, and so I usually let it sit out overnight and then slice into it in the morning. So hopefully this was helpful to all of you, and give it another try. Don't give up. You can do it, Cody, and enjoy.